The Galactic Survival Directorate prided itself on designing tests that pushed species to their absolute limits. But even by their standards, planet Glacier 9 was considered excessive. The world was a frozen wasteland locked in perpetual storm. Temperatures plunged to minus 60 degrees Celsius, and winds screamed across the surface at speeds that could knock armored vehicles sideways. Ice particles scoured the landscape like sandpaper, and visibility dropped to almost nothing within minutes. Yet 40 cadets from across the galaxy stood assembled on its surface. They came from worlds of fire, water, jungle, and vacuum. They wore advanced thermal suits powered by fusion cells, energy shields, and adaptive climate systems. Despite all that technology, fear rippled through the group. Overhead, Examiner Threxil hovered in a grav platform, his crystalline body refracting the stormlight. "You will be deployed 5 kilometers from the extraction point," his translator announced. "You will survive for 72 standard hours. No external aid, no resupply." A chorus of nervous clicks, hisses, and murmurs followed. One figure, however, looked almost amused. Lieutenant Evan Hale, the only human cadet, adjusted his scarf and surveyed the terrain. His equipment looked laughably simple compared to the others. Layered, insulated clothing, a backpack, a folding saw, and a sleeping bag. Commander Vrix of the Krith Empire stared at him. "You are unshielded," Vrix said. "Is your species malfunctioning?" Evan smiled. "Nope, this is normal." The dropships lifted away, vanishing into the storm. Almost immediately, panic set in. Several cadets deployed emergency thermal tents, draining precious power. Others clustered together, arguing over where to go. Energy systems flickered as batteries struggled against the cold. Evan didn't rush. He knelt, scooped up a handful of snow, compressed it, and nodded thoughtfully. "Good packing," he muttered. Using his saw, he began cutting blocks of dense snow. Each block was shaped carefully, angled inward as he stacked them into a rising spiral. The wind howled, but he worked steadily, methodically. 2 hours later, while others were already burning through power reserves, Evan crawled into a small dome of snow with a narrow entrance tunnel dug below floor level. Inside, he lit a single candle. The temperature stabilized just below freezing. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, the human removed his gloves and sighed comfortably. "Home sweet home," he said, and the blizzard had only just begun. Nightfall on Glacier 9 was merciless. The storm intensified, winds screaming louder as the temperature dropped even further. Across the frozen plateau, alien technology began to fail in spectacular fashion. Thermal generators sputtered, energy shields flickered, then collapsed. Power cells drained at triple their expected rates, their internal reactions slowed by the cold. Inside his igloo, Evan listened to distress calls crackling over the emergency channel. "My heating unit has frozen solid. Shield integrity collapsing. I cannot feel my lower limbs." Evan frowned. Humans had stories about this kind of cold. His grandparents used to talk about winters that could kill you if you made one mistake. This wasn't unfamiliar territory. This was history. He checked his instruments, adjusted the entrance tunnel, and tightened his sleeping bag. Snow, packed correctly, trapped air, and air was an excellent insulator. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Sella of the aquatic Delthari species staggered blindly through the storm less than a kilometer away. Her suit systems were failing, and hypothermia was setting in fast. Evan saw her distress signal on his scanner. He didn't hesitate. Grabbing spare blankets and his thermos, he stepped back into the storm. The wind nearly knocked him over, but he leaned into it, following the signal until he found Sella collapsed in a drift, her limbs rigid and discolored. Hey, stay with me," Evan said, hauling her upright. Getting her into the igloo was difficult. Delthari weren't built for crawling tunnels. But eventually they managed. Inside, Warmth returned shockingly fast. Evan wrapped her in blankets and handed her steaming tea. Sella's eyes widened as sensation returned. "How is this possible?" she whispered. "Your equipment is primitive." Evan chuckled softly. "It's not primitive. It's tested. My species learned this stuff the hard way." Word spread quickly. By the second day, more cadets began arriving, frostbitten, exhausted, terrified. Evan expanded the igloo, adding chambers and reinforcing walls. Soon, it became a small survival hub carved entirely from snow. Inside, he explained calmly, "Snow walls trap air, heat rises. The entrance tunnel keeps cold air low, no power required." The aliens listened in stunned silence. They had conquered planets, mastered energy weapons, bent physics to their will, yet none of them had thought to build shelter from frozen water. Outside, the storm continued to rage. Inside, a human was teaching a class. By the third day, Evan's igloo had transformed into something unheard of in Academy history. A classroom. 9 alien cadets sat inside the snow shelter, huddled around flickering candlelight, taking notes on data pads as Evan gestured to the walls. "Thermodynamics doesn't care how advanced you are," he said. "It only cares if you understand it." Commander Vrix clicked his mandibles slowly. "We have conquered 17 systems," he said. "And yet we never considered building with snow." Evan shrugged. "Because you never had to. Humans did." He explained Earth's history: ice ages, tundras, blizzards, and survival without technology. How humans learned to observe, adapt, and cooperate instead of fighting nature head-on. "We don't beat environments," Evan said. "We learn from them." A Thorian warrior examined the igloo's structure with respect. "We believed humans were weak. No claws, no armor." Evan smiled. "That's why we had to get smart." Outside, several cadets who had ignored Evan's advice were now requesting emergency extraction. Their technology had failed completely. Inside, the igloo remained warm. When the 72 hours ended, extraction teams arrived expecting casualties. Instead, they found a thriving snow compound. Cadets sat comfortably inside while Evan demonstrated how to focus sunlight through clear ice to start a fire. Examiner Threxil stepped inside, his crystalline body glowing softly. "This is irregular," he said. Evan nodded. "The test was survival. We survived. Together." Threxil paused, then inclined his head. "Approval. You achieved the highest evaluation score in Academy history." Evan scratched his head. "Honestly, this was easy." The word echoed. Easy. For species with God-tier technology, the trial had been a nightmare. For the human, it had been a weekend skill check. As the transports prepared to leave, the alien cadets watched Evan differently now, not as the soft-skinned human, but as something far more dangerous. Examiner Threxil pulled Evan aside. "You did not merely pass," he said. "You changed how future commanders will think." Evan smiled faintly. "Good," Threxil continued. "Your strength is not technology. It is refusal. Refusal to surrender to environment, to circumstance, to nature itself." Evan looked back at the igloo, already being swallowed by falling snow. "We don't conquer nature," he said. "We coexist with it." Commander Vrix approached, his voice low. "Remind me never to invade your world." Evan laughed. "Smart choice. And this is just winter." As the ship lifted off, the cadets finally understood the truth. Humans didn't survive because they were the strongest. They survived because they adapted. And any species capable of turning a frozen hellscape into a classroom with nothing but ice, knowledge, and stubborn determination was a species the galaxy should never underestimate again.